The prison was silent. Too silent. Deep below the planet's surface, in a forgotten underground facility, there was a special cell. It had no windows, no light, only darkness and chains. Heavy chains. Inside that cell lived a creature so feared, so hated, that even the prison guards refused to speak her name. They called her only one thing: the monster. Her real name was Reth. She had not moved in days. Her arms were chained to the wall, her legs too. She couldn't stand. She couldn't lie down. She could only sit in the cold metal restraints and wait. No one visited her. No one fed her directly. Machines slid meals into her cell from small metal slots. Her voice had not been heard in years, but Kareth was awake. And she remembered everything. In another part of the galaxy, Captain Jackson Rain, a human soldier, arrived at the facility. He had heard the rumors. "Don't go near the lower levels," people said. "She'll break your mind just by looking at you. She's cursed. Unholy." But Jackson didn't believe in curses. He believed in facts. He was sent here by Earth Command to inspect the prison. Something about a security breach in the deep levels. The report mentioned Subject K-17. Jackson read further and paused. Subject K-17 wasn't a number. It was her. A senior alien guard walked beside Jackson as he entered the deeper halls. "You don't want to go down there, Captain," the guard warned. "It's not safe." "What is she?" Jackson asked. "No one knows," the guard said, looking away. "We only know she's dangerous, ugly, big, wrong." Jackson didn't respond. He kept walking. As they passed each floor, lights grew dim. Fewer guards were seen. The walls became older, rusted. And finally, they reached it. Cell 44-Z. It was covered in thick blast doors, each layered with metal and shield energy. Jackson had seen fortresses with less security. "She's in there?" he asked. The guard didn't answer. He only nodded, then turned away. Jackson stood alone. He placed his hand on the control panel. The first door opened with a deep mechanical hiss. The second followed. Then the third. Cold air rushed out. It smelled like metal and silence. He stepped in. There she was. In the far corner, bound in thick chains, sat Rath. She was massive. Her back touched the wall. Horns curled from her head. Her arms looked like they could crush steel. Her eyes, though half closed, glowed faintly red in the darkness. But she didn't move. Jackson took a breath. Something inside him said run. But he stayed. He walked closer. The chains clinked slightly. Suddenly her eyes opened, brighting, focused straight on him. Jackson froze. The stories said she could kill with just a look, but nothing happened. Stared at each other. Seconds passed. Then a minute. Then to his shock she spoke. "Are you here to kill me or to fear me?" Her voice was rough, tired, but calm. Jackson didn't answer immediately. "No," he said finally. "I'm here to understand." Kareth blinked slowly. "You're the first to say that," she whispered. "They all came with weapons, or eyes full of hate." Jackson looked around the cell. It was in terrible shape. Water dripped from a broken pipe. Mold grew on the wall. The floor was cracked. "Why are you kept here?" he asked. Kareth smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Because I look like a nightmare," she said. "That's enough for them." Jackson stepped closer. "Have you hurt anyone?" he asked. She looked down. "I protected myself. Once, years ago. A soldier tried to cut off my horns to sell them." "And since then?" he asked. "I've only waited." Jackson felt anger rise in his chest, but not at her. At the system. The cruelty. A voice cracked through the intercom above. "Captain Rain, leave the cell, immediately." It was the warden. But Jackson didn't move. Kareth looked at him. "You should go," she said softly. "I will," he replied. "But I'll be back." She said nothing. But her eyes showed something for the first time in years. Hope. As Jackson left the cell, the guards stared at him in disbelief. "You survived?" one asked. Jackson didn't answer. He just kept walking, but in his heart he knew she wasn't. The real monsters were the ones who locked her away and threw away the key. And he was going to set her free. It was a bet. In the prison control room, the guards laughed while placing credits on the table. 1 minute. He won't last more than that. I say 30 seconds. She'd break him in two. They stared at the screen, waiting. Captain Jackson Rain had just stepped through the last blast door into cell 44-Z. No one had done that in 5 years. The last person who tried? They said his screams still echoed in the walls, but this time, something felt different. Inside the dark cell, Jackson stood completely still. Kareth watched him from the shadows, her glowing red eyes steady. "I told you not to come back," she said, her voice like stone grinding slowly. Jackson didn't flinch. "And yet here I am." A long pause. Kareth tilted her head. Her chains rattled slightly. "You're not afraid?" she whispered. "No," he replied. "But I have questions." She gave a dry, quiet laugh. "Everyone has questions. No one wants the answers." Jackson looked at her closely. Her body was built for war horns, claws, thick skin, but her voice, her eyes, they didn't match the monster they claimed she was. Outside, the guards stared at the monitor in confusion. "Why? Isn't he screaming?" "She hasn't moved." "He's sitting down?" "Yes." Jackson sat down. Right there on the dirty cell floor. "Talk to me," he said. "I don't care what they call you. I want to hear your side." Kareth stared for a long time. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Because I don't believe in monsters without proof," Jackson replied. "And you haven't given me any." Another long pause. Her breathing slowed. Then she spoke. "I was a child when the war came. My people were healers, artists, scholars. But we looked different, larger, stronger. Our faces didn't smile like yours. They feared us, called us monsters. And then came the fire." Kareth's voice cracked. "They bombed our cities, burned our libraries. My parents told me to run. I did, but they caught me. They didn't ask who I was. They put chains on me, threw me here." Jackson listened without interrupting. The silence between each sentence was heavy, like cold metal pressing against the heart. Kareth turned away, her face hidden in the dim light. "I'm not angry anymore," she said. "Just tired. I forgot the sound of kindness." Jackson slowly stood up and walked closer. The chains on her wrists clanked as she tensed, but he didn't draw his weapon. He just knelt beside her and placed something gently on the floor. A small mirror. She looked at it, confused. He said softly, "Do you know what I see?" Kareth slowly picked up the mirror with her chained hand. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then, "I see ... a beast." "No," Jackson said firmly. "I see pain. I see someone still alive. Still hoping. That's not a beast." Her hands trembled. For the first time, her shoulders lowered, not in defeat, but in relief. Meanwhile, up in the control room, alarms suddenly buzzed. Unauthorized emotional contact with a high-risk subject. Guards grabbed weapons. The warden's voice roared, "Get him out of there. He's being manipulated." But Jackson didn't move, not even when the lights turned red. He turned to Kareth and said, "Let them think what they want. I'll come back again tomorrow." Kareth looked up, eyes glowing not with fury, but something else. Warmth. As he left, she whispered something the guards couldn't hear. "Thank you, human." And for the first time in years, Kareth smiled. The walls tried to kill him. That's what it felt like when the hallway exploded behind Captain Jackson Rain. 1 second. He was walking back from Kareth's cell. The next boom. A blast tore through the corridor. Metal flew through the air like blades. Flames burst out. The ceiling cracked. Lights died. The ground shook. Jackson hit the floor, coughing in the thick smoke. He tried to stand, then screamed. A sharp metal beam had pierced his side. Blood poured out fast. Another loud creak above. The ceiling was about to collapse. In the chaos, the emergency sirens blared. Security breach. Lower levels collapsing. Evacuate now. Guards ran, but no one came to help him. He dragged himself across the floor, but his legs weren't listening. The blast door ahead was already closing. If it shut, he'd die alone in this hole. He reached toward it, but the door froze. Held open by something. No, someone. Ka single quotes RETH. Her chain still wrapped around her arms. Her steps were heavy. Slow. Her ankle was bleeding from torn shackles. Her wrists bruised. She had ripped her chains out of the wall, and she was walking toward him. Jackson blinked in shock. You broke free? Kareth didn't answer. She lifted the metal beam off his body like it was nothing. Then, with fire all around them, she bent down and picked him up in her arms. Outside the smoke-filled corridor, the guards aimed weapons. Subject K-17 is loose. Take her down. Wait, she's carrying someone. Is that the captain? They hesitated. Kareth walked through the fire, holding Jackson close. His blood soaked her arms. She didn't care. All she saw was the man who had looked at her without fear, the man who gave her a mirror, not a muzzle. She laid him gently on the floor outside the danger zone. Then she raised her hands and stepped back. I helped him, she said calmly. You can chain me again. The guards looked at each other. No one moved. She could have escaped. She could have killed them all. But she didn't. She chose to save. Later, in the medical bay, Jackson opened his eyes. His side was bandaged. Pain pulsed in every nerve. He saw Kareth in the corner of the room, her wrists chained again, her head lowered. Why? He whispered. She looked at him with glowing eyes, soft now. You believed I was more than a monster, she said. So I acted like more. Jackson smiled weakly. You didn't just act, you are more. Kareth tilted her head. No one's ever said that to me. But not everyone was happy. In the shadows of a government building, cold voices whispered, she's gaining sympathy. The human is a problem. We must end this before the galaxy starts to believe in her. But the seed had already been planted. Kareth had saved a human, not with violence, but with mercy. And that was something no one could erase. The vote lasted 12 seconds. Behind closed doors, inside a grand hall of polished steel and sharp suits, the Galactic Council made its decision. A hologram of Kareth flickered in the center. Chained, wounded, glowing red eyes lowered in silence. She is dangerous. She broke her restraints. She must be destroyed. No one asked why she saved a human. No one cared. They simply voted. Execution. Captain Jackson Rain didn't find out until it was almost too late. He sat up in the medical bay, ribs still healing. When a nurse dropped a file by mistake, the words glowed red on the screen. Subject K-17. Termination approved by order of the Council. Execution time 0600 Hrs. Jackson. S. heart froze. 600. That was less than 2 hours from now. He ripped the 4 from his arm and stormed out, ignoring pain, ignoring protocol. In the lower levels, Kareth sat in silence. Chains once again bound her wrists and ankles. 2 guards stood outside the door, armed, eyes blank. They didn't speak to her. They never did. She closed her eyes. I knew it, she whispered. Mercy always leads to death. Jackson raced through the corridors. No one told me. He shouted at the front desk. You were recovering, Captain, the officer replied coldly. It's not your concern anymore. He slammed his hands on the desk. She saved my life. That makes it my concern. 10 minutes later, Jackson barged into the council chamber. Alien leaders turned. Some shocked, others annoyed. I protest this execution. Jackson shouted. Denied. said a tall lizard-like alien. "Your emotions make you weak." "Jackson, step forward. Do any of you know her real name? Do any of you know what she did before she was locked up?" Silence. He stared at them all. "She was a healer. A child. She ran when her world burned. You punished her because you were scared of how she looks. She's not a monster. You are." Gasps filled the room. A few council members looked away. One, an old alien with silver markings, leaned forward. "What would you have us do, human?" Jackson's eyes burned with rage. "Let me speak for her. Let me defend her, as her witness, in front of everyone." A long pause. Then the old alien said, "You have until sunrise." Back in the cell, Kareth opened her eyes as the door creaked. Jackson walked in, breathing hard. "They tried to kill you." She gave a slow nod. "Of course, not today," he said. "Not if I can stop it." She looked at him, confused. "Why do you fight for me, human?" Jackson stepped closer. "Because I see something in you that scares them." "What?" "Truth. That you're not a monster. That they were wrong." Kareth stared, heart beating. Fast. And for the first time in her life, she whispered, "Then maybe I am not alone after all." Outside the prison, thousands of people began to gather. The galaxy was listening. And the council? They were no longer in control. The gunshot missed his head by 2 inches. Captain Jackson Rain didn't stop to look back. He grabbed Kareth's hand, still bruised and shackled, and pulled her down the metal hallway. "Move!" he shouted. The alarm lights flashed red across the prison. Sirens screamed. Kareth had been sentenced to death. Jackson had broken the law to save her. Now they were both fugitives. 10 minutes earlier, Kareth had stood in chains before the council. Jackson had spoken with fire in his voice, defending her with everything he had. But the council didn't care. They didn't want truth. They wanted silence. The vote was final. Subject K-17, execution now. Jackson drew his pistol. Kareth stared at him, wide-eyed. "What are you doing?" He shot the guard before he could reach the control panel. "Getting you out of here," he said. Now, they ran. Through steam-filled tunnels, past heavy doors, deeper into the underlevels. No one had walked in years. Kareth struggled to keep up, still limping from old wounds. "I can't." Jackson stopped and turned. "You've carried pain for years," he said. "Now let me carry you." She hesitated, but then nodded. He lifted her onto his back and kept running. Behind them, soldiers shouted. Footsteps thundered. They were being hunted like animals. In the dark tunnels, Kareth looked over his shoulder. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. "They'll kill you too." Jackson didn't stop. "I know," he said. "But I'd rather die beside you than live in a world that let you rot." Kareth said nothing, but inside her chest something cracked. Not fear, not anger. A wall she had built for years, and it was breaking. They reached the old hangar. Inside, covered in dust and cobwebs, was a ship. An old human dropcraft, barely functional. "Will it fly?" she asked. Jackson smirked. "Only one way to find out." Guards poured into the hangar just as the engines roared to life. Bullets flew. A blast hit the wing. Another scorched the side. Inside the cockpit, Jackson cursed. "Hold on." Kareth looked at the cracked controls. She reached out and placed her hand on a glowing screen. "I can guide it." Jackson blinked. "You can fly?" "I learned in chains. I watched their pilots for years." The ship groaned, then lifted. Metal screamed beneath them. The doors burst open, and they were gone. Stars exploded around them as they entered orbit. Pursuit ships followed. Jackson shouted, "They're locking weapons." Kareth didn't flinch. Closed her eyes. "I know a place. A dead moon. No patrols. No people. Just silence." Jackson nodded. "Set course." Back in the council chambers, the news spread fast. Human soldier escapes with war-class alien. Captain Jackson Rain now a wanted traitor. K-17 still alive, massive reward offered. The galaxy didn't know who to believe. Was Kareth truly a monster? Or had the Council been hiding the truth all along? As the stars stretched around their ship, Jackson looked over at her. You okay? Kareth turned to him. You risked everything. I didn't see a monster, he said. I saw someone worth saving. She stared at him, eyes soft, voice low. And no one has ever done that for me. Not once, Jackson smiled. Well, get used to it. Far away, on a cold, lifeless moon, their ship landed in silence, wounded, tired but free. They were alive, but the galaxy wouldn't stop hunting them, and the war for truth had only just begun. She dreamed of fire, not the fire of war, but warmth. For the first time in years, Kareth had a dream that didn't end in screaming or chains. Instead, she saw a small cabin, a fire burning in a stone hearth, and Jackson sitting beside her. Smiling. Then she woke up. Cold wind howled outside the crashed ship. The dead moon had no sun, no life. Only dust and silence. Inside the ship, the lights flickered. Power was running low. Kareth sat up slowly. Her wounds were healing, but not fully. Her mind felt heavy. Then she saw Jackson sleeping on the cold floor beside the broken console, wrapped in only a thin jacket. He had given his blanket to her. She walked over quietly. For a moment, she just stared at him. His face was calm. No fear. No hate. He had risked everything for her, and still chose to stay. Why? She didn't know. But her chest hurt every time she thought about it. Not with pain, but something stranger. A few hours later, he woke up to the sound of her voice. I never knew humans could look so peaceful. Jackson blinked, confused, then smiled. Guess. I was tired. You gave me your blanket, she said. You needed it more, he replied simply. She tilted her head. You keep doing that. What? Giving things without asking for anything. He looked at her seriously. You deserve better than what they gave you. Silence fell between them. Then Kareth stood and reached for something. She tapped the control panel. A blue light filled the room. It shimmered, and then, slowly, her outer armor began to fall away. Not her real skin, but the thick, dark, hardened shell her body created as protection. Piece by piece, it cracked and peeled. And underneath, Jackson's eyes widened. Her skin glowed softly, like polished silver. Smooth, strong, radiant. Her scars were still there, but they didn't define her. Her eyes no longer burned red. They shimmered with gentle gold. She was more than beautiful. She was majestic. I never showed anyone this, she said softly. Not even my own people. Jackson stood slowly. Why now? He asked. Because I wanted you to see me, not the mask. He stepped forward. Carefully, gently. And then, without fear, he touched her hand. Kareth gasped. Not because of pain, but because of what she felt. Warmth. Human warmth. Not fire. Not war, but the kind that melts away loneliness. I'm not used to being touched, she whispered. I'm honored to be the first, Jackson replied. Outside, the moon remained silent. But inside the broken ship, something changed. Two souls, one feared, one hunted, found peace in each other's presence. Kareth looked down at his hand still holding hers, and in a voice so quiet, it barely reached the air, she asked, Do you think someone like me could still be loved? Jackson didn't hesitate. Yes. She closed her eyes. And for the first time in her life, she believed it. They expected a monster. The crowd gathered in silence across the Galactic Plaza. Thousands of aliens, reporters, and soldiers. The sky was filled with drones. Every screen in the system streamed the same image. A black ramp, a single ship landing, and the words flashing at the bottom of every screen. The creature returns. With the human who betrayed us all. No one breathed. They all waited to see the beast in chains. But then, the door opened. First came Captain Jackson Rain, dressed in his torn uniform, standing tall. Head held high. And behind him, single quotes R.I. to dot, but not the Kareth they remembered. No chains. No armor. No glowing red fury. She wore no mask. Her skin shimmered like stars. Her eyes glowed gold. She walked slowly, with dignity, a presence so powerful, the guards lowered their weapons without realizing the monster they feared looked like a queen. The crowd didn't speak. They didn't know what to say. Then one child, alien girl with wide eyes, stepped forward. She held out a flower. Kareth paused, knelt down, took it gently with both hands, and smiled. The silence broke. People began to cheer. Not all of them, but enough. Enough to shake the council. Inside the council chamber, the old leaders panicked. This wasn't the plan. She was supposed to come back in chains. But it was too late. Jackson stepped forward, voice amplified across every world. You called her a monster, he said. You locked her in the dark, but she saved a life. Mine. She showed more mercy than any of you. She's not your prisoner anymore. He turned to Kareth. You were born in chains, but today. He knelt on one knee. You rise as more than free. The crowd roared. Kareth looked at him, eyes wide. No one kneels to me, she whispered. You're not no one, Jackson said. You're Kareth. She lifted him gently to his feet. I don't want a throne, she said. I only want to help, to heal, to live. You don't need a throne to be a queen, Jackson replied. You just need to be followed. And they did follow her, across systems, across fear, across history. Kareth became a voice for the voiceless, a symbol of truth, a healer of broken worlds. And by her side, always, was the one man who dared to touch her when the world called her untouchable. In the end, they didn't rewrite the galaxy. They simply reminded it of something forgotten. Monsters are made by fear, but love unmakes monsters.